Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I welcome you all in this session, and in today's session, we will discuss morphology. So, whenever we hear the word morphology, first of all, what comes in mind is words and their structure. So, now it is clear that we will be discussing words and their internal structure. So, before going to discuss morphology, we should have some objective of this session, that what do you want to achieve through this session or through this lecture. Our objective for this session is to understand the term morphology and to define morpheme, to analyze the internal structure of words and how words are formed by adding affixes, how words formation process interact with phonology, and how words are formed by putting two or more words together. So it is clear from the objective the importance of words, that how words are important in our life. Because you see that nothing is more important to language than words. And words are quite unlike phoneme and syllable, which are simply the element of sound, while words they carry meaning, right? Phonemes and syllable, which are simply the elements of sound, while they do not carry meaning, and words they carry meaning. So words have a lot of importance in our life, because sentences which are created as needed and then discarded, right? So words are not like sentences. Words are permanently stored in a speaker's mental dictionary or lexicon. They are arguably the fundamental building block of communication. So if you have a lot of words, if you have a lot of vocabulary, so you will be able to understand other people, and you will be able to communicate effectively. So the most important branch in linguistic, that is morphology. I don't mean that other elements, other branches of linguistics are not important. They have their own values, but understanding the words, that is fundamental, and understanding words enable you to communicate effectively. So this is our today's session, and we will achieve these certain objectives: to understand the term morphology, that what is morphology, to define morpheme, to analyze the internal structure of words, how words are formed by adding affixes. But when I say affixes, so I mean both prefixes and suffixes. So how words formation processes interact with phonology, and how words are formed by putting two or more words together. So let's begin. Now, that is the definition of morphology, that what is morphology. So what is morphology? Morphology is a branch of linguistics, and primarily it deals with the study of forms and structure of words. So linguists use the term morphology to refer to the part of a grammar that is concerned with words and words formation. So it means that linguists, when they use the term morphology, so they have in mind that it is the part of grammar. Or whenever they use the term morphology, so they refer that morphology is a part of grammar that is primarily concerned with words and words formation. Or in other words, that the internal structure of words, that how words are formed. What are the elements of words? So this is the definition of morphology. Now, before going to morpheme, that what is morpheme, we should understand that what is a word. Word is a very complex phenomenon, and there are several definitions to words. But here we will simply define word, and we will give one simple definition to word, where most of the linguists agree upon. So linguists define the word as the smallest free form found in the language, right? So a word can be defined that it is the smallest free form found in language. And a free form is simply an element that does not have to occur in a fixed position with respect to neighboring elements. In many cases, it can even appear in isolation. So it's a free form found in a language. And a word, sometimes it might have one morpheme, and sometimes it has more than one morpheme, and sometimes it will have free morpheme, sometimes it will have bound morpheme, sometimes it will have the combination of free and bound morpheme. So it's not necessary that a word it must have one morpheme. A word may have one morpheme and a word may have more than one morpheme. But it is necessary that a word must have one free morpheme. Right? Without a free morpheme, we cannot make a word. Right? So a free morpheme that is necessary, because from the definition of a word, we see that it is smallest free form found in the language. Not bound form, but free form. So we will understand that what is a free form and what is a bound form. Let's come to define that what is morpheme. In English, an English word form must consist one element and a number of other elements. Right? So it is important to notice that an English word form must consist one element. There must be one element, and that will be a free form, and a number of other elements. Example, we have books and shows and player and teaching, etc. So if you look at the word here, book. So in books we have two morpheme. One is book and one is s. Okay, that is the plurality. So book will be considered as free form, and s, the plurality which make it plural, will be considered as bound form. Now similarly, the word shows has also two morpheme. One is show and one is s, that make it plural. And player has also two morpheme. One is free morpheme, play, and one is that is bound morpheme. And teaching has also two morpheme. So what is actually a morpheme? Look at the definition of morpheme, that morpheme is a minimal unit of language which has a meaning, lexical or grammatical, and cannot be divided into further smaller unit. So two things are there. Number first, that whenever we define a morpheme, so two things, they are important, and then you have to remember. What are they? Number first. Now the first thing, that a morpheme cannot be further divided into parts because it is the smallest unit of language. Let's keep in mind. And the second thing is that sometimes it carries information about meaning, and sometimes it will have a grammatical function. So two things are there. One, first, that it is the smallest unit of language and it cannot be further divided. Right? There will be no subdivision of morpheme. The second thing, that it will have sometime lexical meaning, and sometime it will have grammatical function. Let's come to the second definition of morpheme, that a minimal unit of meaning or grammatical function is known as morpheme. Again, you can see two things are here. Number first, that it is a minimal unit of meaning. It will give you, sometime it will give you meaning, a minimal, or sometime it will be a minimal unit of grammatical function. There'll be grammatical function of this. Meaning might not be there, but there'll be only grammatical function. And such thing is known as morpheme. Example, here we have that she rejoined the same post. You can see here that in the word rejoined, we have here, let me zoom it. The word rejoin, here we have three morpheme. One is re, second is join, and third is the past tense. So re, it is actually a smallest unit of meaning, because re mean again. It gives meaning. While the second one, that ed, that is it indicate the aspect of like time, tense, past tense. So that is joined. When you say join, and join is present form or the base form, and when we add ed, so it becomes past form. So ed, it indicates past tense. So ed, it is not like the smallest unit of meaning, but it has a grammatical function, right? So as in definition, we discussed the minimal unit of meaning or grammatical function. So re is a minimal unit of meaning, and it's a grammatical function. So actually that in rejoin we have three morpheme. The second example, that he is always unkind to poor. Again, in unkind we have two morpheme. One is un, one is kind. Un is bound morpheme and kind is free morpheme. Un mean not. So again, it has a lexical meaning. So smallest meaning of unit. And she re-entered the office without permission. So here we have again three morpheme. Re-enter and past tense, ed. Right? So re, it means again. Again is a lexical meaning. So the people of these areas are traditionalist. So we have a free morpheme, tradition, and then we have re, and then we have the final we have s. So here we have again three morpheme. Tradition is one morpheme, nalis is another morpheme, s is a third morpheme. So here we have two bound morpheme, and tradition is a third morpheme, which is a free morpheme, right? So tradition, the first morpheme, free, and then le, it means the person that who's a traditionalist. So it has a lexical meaning. And the last one, sir, which make it plural, it is a grammatical function. Now let's move to the next level. Next slide. Now let's come to a very important point, and that is free and bound morpheme. So we have two types of morpheme then. One is called free morpheme and the other one is called bound morpheme. We also call it like sometimes we also call them like complex words typically consist of a root morpheme and one or more affix. So when we say root morpheme, so root morpheme is also called a free morpheme. And when we say bound morpheme, so bound morphemes are also called affixes. So complex words typically consist of a root morpheme and one or more affixes. The root constitute the core of the word and carry the major component of its meaning, right? So it means that a free morpheme constitute the core of the word and carry the major component of its meaning. So roots typically belong to lexical category. So free morpheme mostly belong to lexical category such as noun, verb, adjectives, etc. Now, so here we come towards example. Here we have two example. One is undressed. The word undressed is actually adjective, and if we make analysis of the word, or we look at the internal structure of the word undressed, the word undressed is actually an adjective. So there are two morpheme. There are actually three morpheme, right? Un is one morpheme, dress is another morpheme, and that is the third morpheme. So un is actually, we have bound morpheme, right? And dress is actually free morpheme, or it is actually bound morpheme. In other words, we can say that undressed has three morpheme. One we have root word. Which one is root word? That is dress. Dress is a root word. And when we add un, so it is one prefix, bound morpheme, and when we add ed is another bound morpheme, which is called suffix. Similarly, if we come towards and talk about the word carelessness, so carelessness has also three morpheme. Care is a root word. You can also call it a free morpheme. Less is bound morpheme, and ness is also bound morpheme. So care is a stem word, a root word, or free morpheme, and less is one suffix and ness is another suffix. So stem word is also called, I told you that it is also called free morpheme. You can also call it a root word, and the suffix is bound morpheme, and another suffix is also here bound one. Let's come and talk about next slide. Now let's come towards a very important question, that is this distinction very simple? And it's not at all. That because sometimes we might have a stem, but in fact it will not be a free morpheme. This is okay, or what we want to explain. So there are a number of English words in which the elements treated as a stem and is not in fact a free morpheme. In words such as receive, we have two morpheme, and in the word like reduce, we have two morpheme, and in the word like repeat, we have two morpheme. We can identify the bound morpheme re in the beginning, but elements sieve, deuce, and pete are not separate words. So, as we discussed earlier, that a free morpheme can stand alone as separate word, right? Free morpheme. While bound morpheme, they cannot stand alone as words themselves. But here in this example, there are some exception. There's problems and complex. That is okay, that sometime we might have a stem word, or we might have a stem word, but that word cannot stand alone as a word, right? And it will not be a free morpheme. Like in receive, the morpheme sieve cannot stand as a separate word. Okay, so where we were, separate word form, and hence cannot be free morpheme. These type of morpheme are sometimes described as bound stem to keep them distinct from free stem, such as dress and care. So sometimes we will have quite free stems, and sometimes we will have bound stems. So what is the free stems? Free stem can stand alone as a separate word, like we have a word dress, we have a word care, we have a word kind. They can stand alone as separate word. While we, on the other hand, we have bound stems, and these bound stems cannot act or cannot stand as a separate word, because sieve cannot stand as a separate word, or deuce cannot stand as a separate word. So that such kind of stems are called bound stems. Remember that free stems, their entries, and they can be identified in dictionary, right? Most of the time they are lexical words and lexical category, so they are in dictionary. While bound stems and bound morpheme, you